Okay, so hello and welcome to this episode of The Three Coaches. I'm Taty, I'm joined by Furn.
Hey guys.
And Mac as well.
Hello.
And today we're breaking down the Dig vs IMT LCS game from the 26th. So, just bring this up here. So, we want to do like a bit of background, I guess. The background for this is whoever wins this, if Dignitas win 2-0, they get to playoffs. Other than that, Immortals get through. So if we want to just start from the beginning, whichever one of you wants to chip in first in terms of the pick ban and what we've seen from both these teams.
Okay, and this is 7.5 as well, so it's quite relevant.
Yeah, always good.
You can go ahead, Mac, if you've got something you want to particularly talk about. Just taking a look. Kai actually didn't see this game live at all, so...
No.
Yeah.
I think it's a really, really evenly matched draft overall, and I think the compositions both want to do something really similar. I like both of these comps are comps that are really happy to just like take long fights, basically. Like the Cassiopeia and the Varus and the Kha'Zix and the Lulu, like they all have like really like all of these champions benefit from getting lots and lots of spell rotations off, and the same goes for the Immortals comp with the Talia poke, the Ezreal poke, the Karma poke, the shields. Like, so I feel like they're really similar comps, but I think Dig is going to outscale slightly, and Immortals is going to have like the early game edge just because of Dardoch's Lee Sin.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting how there's a lack of like early game presence in both comps. There is Lee for Immortals and Karma 2 in lane, but realistically there's a lot more kind of scaling elements. So there's the Maokai and the Ezreal, there's the Cassio and the Varus. Even Kha'Zix doesn't have a huge presence in the early game. I think it's possibly easier for... I think this should probably be a game where you don't actually see much presence from junglers even. Maybe around top side of the map in the early levels to try and blow TPs of Maokai and Nautilus. And probably whoever gets ganked first will achieve that. Because then that sets up for what will happen a bit later in the game around the bot side of the map. But... there's a lot of scaling elements here, and it's kind of the teams waiting to get to their points of power as opposed to... I can't imagine you seeing a huge amount early here. Not orchestrated early anyway, not kind of pre-planned early stuff with their compositions.
I think the only lane that has any kill pressure realistically is mid lane. I don't think you'll see anyone go top or bot in this entire game. And I think that's quite fitting for a Talia comp, to be fair.
Yeah, I think... Yeah, there is some potential possibly top lane like in the early levels pre-first back, but I think outside of that, then yeah, you're 100% right. I don't think you'll see
So
it's very interesting that Malzahar is like first banned from Immortals. To be honest, like I haven't watched that much of Dig, so maybe they know that X Special just leans on that champion as a really hard crutch. But like I didn't think that we'd see so much priority on Malzahar in 7.5. But I know that a lot of Korean teams are still like banning it in most games, actually.
Teams play it much more utility than the kind of old damage support Malzahar, where they used to go like Leandries and Rylai's. That they now itemize into typical support items, Redemption and Locket, and use it for kind of an ult bot almost, while still having the high base damage values for laning phase. So you still have like lane pressure on most champions, and obviously ult pressure is huge in terms of setting up anything. So I think that's why teams still prioritize it, especially in Korea. But I think equally Lulu's quite good into that, and that's one of the typical champions that has always been good into Malzahar ever since Malzahar support became meta.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're going to give them the ability to first pick Lulu, then like do you need to ban Malzahar? Because you're not going to pick Malzahar into it anyway. If you're leaving Lulu up, then I don't really understand the ban.
You could take Lulu into Malzahar.
If they first pick Malzahar,
I think it's really interesting as well that Dig is banned like double top lane and Shen and Camille when you've got Someday into Flame, which I would have thought that would be like one of your big pressure points. I think Someday is like if I'm Dignitas, I would just be playing around Someday all the time. To put him on Nautilus to me is quite strange. I understand the jungle bans from Immortals, like put Chaser on something he's less comfortable on and just get Dardoch on Lee Sin. Like that makes perfect sense to me, but I don't really get the Shen and Camille bans, to be honest. I don't think Camille on 7.5 is even that strong. Like teams are still like focusing her pretty hard, but there's been like 3 Camille nerfs in a row, and there are plenty of counters.
Yeah, I don't think teams opt into the Fiora one, the Fiora choice, mainly out of it forces you into a situational kind of playstyle. But the Gragas and the Poppy is much more viable, I think, when playing
And the
into this
Renekton as
level.
well.
Yeah, Renekton's fine too. But
I don't feel like Camille's this unanswerable pick anymore that's going to always like out pressure you in lane and then out team fight you. I feel like there are so many champions that do just fine to her like 50-50 matchups that will do just as well in the mid to late. So I don't know.
Yeah. Outside of that, though, I think the comps are very scaling. This is 7.5, right? So Varus nerfs have come in. So Varus build will probably be Blade the Ruined King.
Yeah.
And then obviously Ezreal's going to spike at kind of Triforce Manamoon. And then it's going to be stacking tier for Cassio. So I could imagine you'll see a fairly passive early game and really working into mid-game team fights into late game. Maybe with map movements and like minion denial as opposed to actual kill pressure in this early game, or even kind of trying to force too much on kills. It's probably going to be the junglers finding each other and skirmishing more so than the lanes ever. But I think that's probably about all of it, really. I guess we could look at lane pressure and push.
Well, that's fine. I mean, we don't want to go. We don't want to go too for too long. The other thing that's worth mentioning, I don't know if, I guess it really depends on who you're playing against, but we have this same thing of the first 3 picks are both matched.
Yeah.
From both these teams, so they've both gone support jungle top, which means that the second set of bans, like you're all banning away the same area, but they have actually just chosen to do 2 different ones. Is that
what?
As in, so
if you look at Dignitas' bans, why have they banned 2 mid laners? Talia was first picked, right?
That's what. No, sorry. I moved to I moved the thing by accident.
Oh, okay.
So you should be at 919.
I'm at 924.
Oh, right, okay.
Now I'm at 919.
Okay. So Talia's last pick accidentally started.
Okay, that makes way more sense.
I was like,
I was wondering why you would pick Cassiopeia into Talia as well.
Okay. So
this is what I mean by matching. So both teams match. So when you're in the second round of pick ban, you know both teams have got AD and then mid, but they don't choose to all ban the same thing. Is that just because they're happy to trade? I guess.
For me, it favors red side because you get 2 choices of ban and then you get first pick choice, and you know what you're wanting to first pick, and obviously you can take 2 things away that may out lane pressure that. So in this instance, they feel Lucian and Ashe are going to gain significant lane pressure over the Ezreal. They've already got the Karma locked in, so they know they've got support pressure. Into Lulu, it's like whatever, because Lulu can nullify that quite a lot. But you then get your choice of AD to pick with your comp that you're going to pick, and you also get counter pick mid. And it's somewhat guesswork for Dignitas. So they just banned 2 strong mid laners, thinking that the Immortals are going to do that, right? Because they're banning AD, so they're very likely to make their choice of AD. So they realise that this is going to happen, so they ban out 2 mid laners and kind of do exactly the same with their second pick. They know if we get rid of Syndra, if we get rid of Orianna, there's not going to be any bad matchups for Cassio necessarily. So they pick Cassio, and then obviously Immortals answer with Talia as their remaining counter pick. But I think that's generally how you play out that when you've been matched in the first half. On red side, you realise what you want to first pick, and you ban away 2 things that are going to nullify that in a way. And then on blue side, you realise by what you see them banning, what they're going to first pick, and then you look to try and get your choice of the other role by banning away 2 counters for that.
And that's another reason why red side, I think, seen an increase in win percentage recently, is that there's no sort of way around this for Dignitas, because you've got 4 ADs left. If they ban 2 ADs as well, then Immortals are just not going to ban an AD the second time round. So they've got no way out of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll just play it out from there. I'll jump to
no worries.
Yeah. I feel like the Talia into Cassiopeia is actually quite a good matchup though. I don't have that much experience with the matchup, but especially into a Lee Sin, I'd be kind of scared for the Cassiopeia there, because like against 2 champions where basically if either Lee Sin's Q or Talia's W lands on you, like you're gonna flash or burn heal or potentially just die. And Cassiopeia actually can't itemize into boots like super early, and it takes a long time for her movement speed to actually scale up to the same level as you would have with boots. So like I think that's just like a slightly interesting dynamic about the champions there, which you wouldn't otherwise have on someone that wasn't Cassiopeia, because like she can't just like first back on, I don't know, Doran's Ring and boots if she's like really getting wrecked in the lane to be able to actually dodge out all of the Talia poke and the Lee Sin engage. So like I feel like this is a pretty rough lane matchup for Keen, to be honest. But I could be wrong. Like I don't know that much about the matchup specifics, but I can't see Cassiopeia doing super well into Talia.
A huge amount of, to be honest. I guess there's a slightly more defensive summoner on Keen in as much as he's taken a heal, as opposed to Talia's Ghost.
Yeah, what do you feel about the Talia Ghost? I don't know if I think it's that great.
I like it personally on Talia. Just that, like anything that can enhance your extra roaming. Like if you're ghosting and surfing down to bot lane, you get there super fast, even if your ult's not up.
But I mean, Ghost is such a long ability, right? And you only get the the movement speed delayed now. Oh, Pobelter got one of the small ones, so he's going to level up first. So yeah, that's the strategy from Immortals this game. I'm guessing is pressure around the mid lane, like get mid lane shoved super early, smash it into the tower, and then have Dardoch come when the wave bounces.
The thing about Cassiopeia is that you're wanting to back around level 4 or 5 to get that tier. Once you get that initial push, you really want your tier as early as possible to start stacking that as early as possible. Exactly the same as Ezreal on the bot side of the map, and Cassio wants to get back and do that. That's why you see this. That's literally why you see this, because they know Talia came to lane with a CS from the Raptors, so they're trying to get the shove, and then as a result, this was the counter shove for it, because Cassio will need tier, and they recognise that at pro level. A UK league level, that wouldn't exist, and Talia would be shoved under. Cassiopeia would be shoved under tower level 4 or 5, and she'd be like, well, I really need to back for tier, but my jungler's doing his Krugs or something, and never actually gets the required help needed.
I mean, the play worked out pretty badly though. Chaser had to recall, they lose vision on the blue, they lose the shove into mid, so like ultimately you're still in the same position, and this wave's going to bounce back to the side of Immortals unless Pobelter decides to shove it. So this Cassia is going to be in a pretty rough spot. I guess he just needs to control the wave so that she's just not actually shoving into him when she hits tier gold. As long as Talia does that, then like she should win this lane matchup from now, I think.
So do you think they're going to have to get Chaser to revisit Keen in the mid lane,
It
or is that
depends
just
how
you
Pobelter plays it out. It depends how Pobelter plays it out. How many CS is tier Furn? Do you know off the top of your head? It's like 21 or something? 22?
When you're starting on Rise, it's slightly different, isn't it? Because you start with Mana Crystal, so it's like a lot less gold, whereas you need the full tier gold on Cassio because you start Dorans.
I mean, Lost Chapter's like 20, 27, 28, and that's 900, right? So I think he should be ready for tier like really soon.
Ooh,
oh wow!
What the
let's just jump back and see that, because
did you jump back, John? Because it didn't jump back for me.
Oh, it's jumping now.
Just jump back now.
Yeah, there you go.
So I'm paused at
fine,
14:31.
Yeah, I got it.
So Special just comes way too far forward. There's no like.
He doesn't even have any health bar.
There's nothing like fancy about that. It just comes forward taking a Q, and at the same time Dardoch's top as well. So.
Yeah, against the Mantra, and they even have vision in the bush. Like that's super weird.
I think he must have misjudged Mantra Q cooldown. I assume he wouldn't have stepped up if he thought Mantra Q was up, and he thought it would just be in a normal Q, and that would be worth getting the EQ onto Ezreal for. Yeah. Because it's a similar principle, right? The Talia wanting to push the Cassio in is exactly the same as Varus and Lulu wanting to get the pressure over Ezreal, because they don't want Ezreal to be able to back for his tier. And if you can make him back before that, or you just prevent him by sitting him under lane.
Oh my god, this round.
That's really bad. But I guess
I think that actually happened
because the Ghost, right? Because Cassio was pushed in.
Yeah, I think that actually happened because Cassio tried to roam top. Cassio tried to roam top to assist with the gank earlier. Like if you look on the minimap now, she's just coming back. So Talia's going to have pressure over her, I think.
Okay.
Oh no, she's not just coming back. She's just leaving now. Yeah. She actually goes top to try to help with a 2v1 on Nautilus, which is pretty weird.
Yeah. Well, Chaser's up there as well. I don't know if they're trying to turn it 3v2.
Someday had to flash anyway.
Yeah, maybe. But it seems like a really weird roam timer for a Cassio. I mean, she's going to get back to lane way before Pobelter now, though. So she at least has like a small window where she can push and maybe get some vision down somewhere and do something else. But that's a pretty huge win for Pobelter just because Keen randomly left lane for a level 4 Cassiopeia roam, to be honest. And this just gives you such an enormous amount of pressure over the bottom side of the map now for the first Infernal Drake.
yeah.
Like they had it anyway because of the Lee Sin, but
now with what's happened with regards to bot side, there's just Karma and Dardoch have just moved into bot side, put a control ward in bot side river.
this dive is ridiculous.
That area.
It's like we pick LCS, so not too much happens, and we have time to talk about it, and then stuff like this.
Well, this game
Why
is
did they
one
not
that
just go
shouldn't
for the wave?
happen either. Things shouldn't happen here.
So we'll go back. Again for the setup.
Yeah,
you can see
this
the
is
movement
really,
now.
really good setup.
If we just pause it right here, just a second. You can see where Lee Sin and Karma are kind of situated right now, and that they're here gaining control of bot side river, which is exactly what they should do. Now they recognise the value that's in bot side of the map because Ezreal's scaling's being kind of accentuated by the early unnatural lead that he's got. He shouldn't be 1 kill and an assist and be able to sit there and stack a coal freely. But he knows Varus couldn't do anything because he died early, so he had to go back and get the most gold efficiency out of his items he could, which is a cull itself. And actually, the pressure that Varus will exert is much more limited than it ever should have been. And this unnatural lead has led to Karma's ability to move quite freely. Lee can control this area with Karma now, because if they have a bump to Kha'Zix, it's a 2v1 situation. They can control bot side river. Infernal's the first Drake. It doesn't really matter when that Infernal goes down. They will probably look for TP advantage if possible. They've already burnt Flash in topside, so they probably kind of look for this, or look for a time where they know Nautilus wants to back or is being pressured in any way, because there's a CS kind of lead there anyway. And then play around this Infernal and First Blood Tower, which is going to be what's going to happen in the next 4 or 5 minutes or so, or should do in terms of the way they're looking to play this. And this vision that they're setting up right now is quite important.
Okay. And then it starts off well, and the vision, exactly what you're saying, gets them.
Yeah, if you could look at like Varus' face checking blind now because he has no idea. He wants to control his lane, but there's very little he can do with regards to actually doing that. And he's not in any right at this point in the game to be able to even go and ward that bot side.
No. But like all of this is so ridiculous. Like this dive is so stupid if you ask me.
Yeah, of course.
Like they're in such a good position to just win the lane right now. Like if
as
you look
soon
at the
as
lane
Varus
position,
flashed, they could have disengaged that and just taken the flash.
Yeah. So like, they have two options there. Yeah, they have two options there, right? They can either like build up a massive slow push, wait for Talia to get 6, and then just have her walk down into the river, which you've already got pink warded, shove a wall down, and Lee Sin takes the dragon. Like if someone comes Talia like walls and you have a big wave at their bottom tower, fine. Or Ezreal can literally just sit there and freeze that wave, and you deny like 30 CS to the Varus. He's going to do that anyway because the wave didn't get screwed over that bad. But like that wave's a cannon wave, and there's not a cannon in the red side wave, so this is like an indefinite freeze if you want. Like you can actually just destroy this lane right here. Like this could be like a legitimate 30-40 CS advantage if they just play this patiently.
Exactly. They Varus flashed him with 0 HP and Lulu with 0 HP too. Like you could have just left Ezreal to freeze and Lee and Karma gone and done the Infernal at that point. Yeah.
I mean the Varus has to recoil there, which is like at least 25-30 seconds off the map, more like 35 I think seconds off of the map at this point. That's like 35 seconds of that massive wave just killing all of Varus' minions. He loses at least 2 minion waves there, and you lose the Infernal Drake if you like spread your resources properly.
And 2 minion waves, 12 CS. Generally, it's around 13 CS, but that's the same as kill gold. So it's the same as killing Varus anyway, but purely onto Ezreal, which is exactly
and
where you
don't burn 2 of your flashes.
And you don't burn 2 of your flashes, and give Varus kill gold on Lee.
It's funny.
There's a massive gold swing that could have occurred there that didn't.
And it's just the risk reward of that as well.
Yeah, exactly. And kill gold is never high enough reward to really risk. It's like just a byproduct of good macro, and that's the way that teams should think about kills. They're just a byproduct of the macro play, or teams trying to defend things they're not within their right to defend, as opposed to ever searching for kill gold as an objective.
Yeah, and I mean, Lee Sin's flash and Karma's flash at this point in the game are not worth that like 300 gold that you get from killing the Varus. They're really not.
It was even worse than that, right? Because they just gave the 300 gold to Varus too.
Yeah, exactly.
They burnt their flashes and they gave him 300 gold.
Yeah.
Which is awful.
Yeah, and it's funny because we talked about freezing last time, and John, you asked like, why do we not see freezes in competitive? But like, this is one of the few situations where you ever see freezes in competitive when you have tier Kal Ezreal. Like, this is the perfect freeze situation, and almost the only time where you ever let your ADC freeze a side lane. And then you just get to 25 minutes and you've won the game because Ezreal's like 50 CS ahead with an insanely like
what
quick.
Immortals are doing
Loremana.
correctly though is just further on from the point we said earlier where they were getting vision. They've established 3 pink wards or control wards in bot side river now, 8 minutes into the game. So they fully understand or are aware of like the power of that area of the map right now at this moment with regards to taking this game to the victory for them. And understanding the win conditions of being able to control this area, and there's nothing that Dig can do. There's no power within this area of the map that can prevent this Infernal ever being taken.
Yeah, I mean Cassiopeia backed and they saw, so like that's just free Infernal Drake as soon as it happened. I'm not sure why she backed. I don't know if she was chunked, but I didn't think so. I think she was
she was full health, but she just pushed up to tower and backs while Hobelt is on the blue.
Yeah, so probably not the best bet.
At least Cassiopeia's got an extra back and is still 10 CS up as well.
Yeah, like he's playing out the lane well.
That happened.
Yeah, I actually don't know where the CS advantage came from at all.
Yeah, because the roam he got should have been pretty much free because it was answering Keen's on top anyway. So just good play, I guess.
I mean, Pobelty got like he had to back like when he made that roam, he got back to lane and Keen had basically already recalled. So I think he was like a full recall down after that roam because it was so early in the game. So that's probably where it came from. Because I think Keen was really, really far ahead on tempo after that recall.
So does the objective now for IMT change at all now? So Infernal's down, do they still keep control of bot side if there's less to take there?
Well, realistically, tank versus tank, leaving that on island is perfectly fine for both tanks, right? They're not going to be denied any CS, they're not going to gain anything in particular. Being aware of TP advantages and when your TPs are up and when the opposing top lane's TP's up is also very important. But that's really the only kind of point with regards to the top side of the map. Bottom side of the map for IMT, it's a huge amount about getting this Ezreal to a point of power where he's going to be useful in skirmishes, where he's going to be useful in fights. And that will probably incorporate possibly Maokai TP and definitely Talia role. And those key points are very important with regards to, 1, getting First Blood Tower, and 2, getting this Ezreal to a kind of point of strength. And that's very important for Immortals in general right now.
Yeah, I think it's very rare that this actually happens in competitive because we don't often see 2 comps that have like such a similar power curve and that are both so late game scaling oriented. But I think in this situation, you're absolutely fine with just like not taking towers, not really snowballing, literally just leaning on this bottom lane matchup, like getting perfect vision control over the river and making sure Kha'Zix can never come, and making sure the Ezreal always has the upper hand on the Varus in terms of push, in terms of recalls, and in terms of gold. Like gets the Carl completed first, gets his Romana completed first. I guess the other option is to try and like snowball the mid lane basically and get the Talia to come down.
Yeah, I think there being, with regards to the difference of Talia and Cassio, I think that's where the comps differ slightly. Cassio much more heavy scaling, much more about her tool of disengage when the team is grouped up, whereas Talia benefits from situations where the team is playing in all 3 lanes and she can use her roam ability to impact those or create outnumbered situations inside lanes, and that's what I think Immortals are on. They need to make advantage of this as opposed to Dig, which can actually farm the lanes and hope nothing happens with Talia or prevent her doing things exactly as we see here.
Yeah. I mean, that gank for me is just a repercussion of the top lane gank from Dardoch, which I think is a total waste of time.
He was in that lane for so long as well.
Yeah, like as soon as he shows top, we commented they had like 3 perfect pink wards in the river, and they're in like a really great position to just play on the bottom side of the map. Okay, Maokai's going to go down a bit in CS, but he's still going to do Maokai things in the late game. Like it's Maokai Karma, he's going to be absolutely fine, just because of the like extra amount of shielding he gets, and you have like Lee Sin as well to provide like some semblance of frontline. So like you don't really care about that top lane if you ask me. But as soon as the Lee Sin shows top, the Kha'Zix moves up, the Lulu moves up, Cassiopeia pushes with a cannon wave. Like you lose all the pink wards and you lose the mid pressure, and Ezreal then isn't allowed to sit there and just like slow farm. So I really don't like that from Dardoch.
And he also ended up just putting Flame quite far behind as well, because he was just up there for like a minute or two, just taking HP basically.
Yeah, it's just lost efficiency. Like, I understand that on Lee Sin you feel pressured to make ganks happen, but if you have those 3 perfect pink wards in the bot side river, why not use them and just pressure mid? Like, if you have a Talia and you have an Ezreal that's doing really well, and you're against Varus Lulu, like, neither of these two have gap closers to be able to jump the Talia wall. Why not just try and pressure out? Like, if you're going to burn your flash for flash, don't do it for the Nautilus, do it for the Cassiopeia. And then the Talia has so much more kill pressure on the Cassio, and then you can just push out mid and force bot. You don't even have to make the Talia play. Like, you can just walk into the river and make them like scared and make them back off the tower and get the Ezreal further ahead. I think that's like the long play that you make in this scenario.
And so this all just comes from that wasting time top lane, ends up losing everything in mid in terms of this dive. I mean,
I don't really see any benefit, even if you do get the kill top. Like, both top lane, maybe you get the TP advantage, but so what? You already have a global advantage in the mid lane with the Talia, so I mean, it's a really well executed gank from Dignitas, but it's made very easy by Immortals. Like, I'm a big believer in playing around where you're currently winning and where you're strong, because that's where you have the ability to make advantages happen.
Yeah, and unmatched advantages too, because even if they match that, it's the area where you've got strength. So if they match with equal numbers, you're still stronger than them, right?
Yeah, and we talked about this last time, right? Like, the lane that you have an advantage in is away from that lane, and then you have like a numbers advantage, and they could have had a mid lane advantage there really easily. But instead, they end up with like losing a kill, losing all their bot side vision, and losing both mid lane summoners and the jungle summoners for like.
And he's now like
for a top lane summoner. Well. Yeah.
Still, same thing again.
Why? I don't see the point. I mean, I guess now that you've learned the flash, you can do it, sure, but.
I think it's solely for the TP though. I don't think getting the kill means very much at all, or provides any real benefit. I think it's solely for you to push that wave in and try and force Nautilus's TP out where it's an unmatched TP, because Nautilus is effectively stronger than Maokai at current state if he TPs in where Maokai is, because of the lead he's acquired in lane. So yeah, I think Dardoch's having a poor micro game actually. Like, mechanically, that dive bot, and then he misses a pretty short range Q in. Just
about to get to it now.
Yeah, we'll see that. But he throws it through the wall. Like, Lulu's never going to be there.
So it looked like, the reason why I paused it, because it looked to me like Pobelter and IMT did actually sort of know that was coming. So the bot lane didn't seem to react very quickly when Lulu roamed originally, but started coming up before he even died. Is there anything you can even do in that situation when you're about to be 3v1 tower dive, especially at an unsafe tower like the mid tier 1? Is there anything that you do, or you just...
If you know it's coming, it's similar to when you know you're going to get 4-man dive bot, right? You just have to back away until pressure's regained elsewhere. So obviously Lulu not being in lane bot lane gives you free lane pressure for Ezreal and Karma. So once they regain there, then Lulu would have to make a decision to, do I wait here until Talia shows back mid, or do I have to help Varus regain lane pressure or regain his ability to farm that lane, because he can't step up and farm that lane versus an Ezreal, which is unnaturally stronger than he should be, and obviously Karma at this point of the game, whose base damages are very high. So if Talia can step back, okay, she's going to lose 5-6 CS, whatever, but equally Varus is going to lose exactly the same on the bottom side of the map. So you're just taking a trade-off as opposed to dying.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good trade though. Like, trading mid lane pressure and chunk damage for bot lane.
I mean, obviously, as we talked about, it occurred because of the wasted time top lane. But when it has happened already, I was just asking about that. So when you're already in that situation.
Yeah, well, once you're in that situation, I think that becomes the best possible trade.
Yeah,
because it's better to take a trade than to take just the death, right, for very little.
So then a Dignitas with this Cassiopeia with extra scaling, just happy to keep going up into the mid and late game. Like, they don't need to make anything proactive, especially as it's just Cloud coming up next. So they've got Kha'Zix going to be outscaling Lee, and Cassiopeia are outscaling the.
Yep. I think the longer it goes, Dig get the overall advantage. When everybody hits 6 items, for instance.
And this is a good read. Like, this is exactly what they need to be doing, is just waiting for, like, Immortals to try and overextend on these aggressive plays, because, like, you've seen from Dardoch's mentality this game is, like, I need to be the playmaker, I need to be the carry, I need to make kills happen, which is a very, like, classically Dardoch thing. So that's a really good read from Chase.
Can we go back and look at the setup?
Yeah, just go back and see Lee's movements and how they read that.
Oh, this is quite far back. So it's when they chunk out special, then he starts making his way over, I think. Chaser, I mean.
Right. So Lee hands off the blue to Talia.
I might have gone way too far back.
No, it's okay.
I think it's okay.
Clears out a ward in River. He refreshes his pink.
So he just goes through 2 wards and just does it.
Yeah, and clears the wards.
But he assumes he's safe because he knows that Lulu has to back because she's so low.
And Talia can move first, which is fine.
So they have like a numbers advantage here. He just goes over the wall without any support.
3 raptors.
Yeah.
But
they're going over the wall here. So surely he has to know that Chaser knows.
Yeah, and it's because Lulu's coming back to lane as well. Yeah, it's a mistake.
Yeah, I feel like they've taken just way too long for this. Like, you do one of the two, right? You either take the Raptor camp and just, like, get the vision superiority and you're happy with that, or you go straight for the dive with the numbers advantage. But you don't do both.
Your bot lane's now overextended because you were there and that they in turn die for it. And those ganks earlier onto Nautilus, he because of the natural CS lead he got in lane, I guess that was just him laning better than Flame, because there should have been no real reason why he got an outright lane CS advantage. So because of that CS advantage anyway, he was probably happy to lose 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8 CS to not use his TP. So he didn't TP for the team. And then saves that TP for this instance.
Oh, dude.
What was the point of that? Okay, we'll go back and watch that one as well. So they get first brick from the TP as well.
Yeah.
So they didn't burn.
It's a huge gold swing, and as we said, Dig are the ones that are scaling first.
Which is really disappointing, because Immortals were making the proactive play there. They just over. Like they had already won. Look at the vision control they had in bot side jungle. If you have this and you have a Talia on your team, you're really happy.
And you should never lose your tower first. That's awful to do.
Yeah.
A lot of okay, we'll talk about
and
this after that.
So he flash ulted.
There's just no reason. Like, what's he?
No, completely pointless.
Is it even a cannon wave?
It's hard to tell unless we saw it from the start.
We didn't see it. We might see it in a replay, but.
But yeah, it's a lot of Immortals and mistakes have led to Dig being able to capitalize on those, as opposed to Dig doing anything particularly great. They've just kind of punished errors that that Immortals have done. It's similar there, but obviously for Immortals side, Pabetta just punishing Keen's over aggressiveness or over mistake. No, it's not
even a cannon wave.
And obviously immediately fix aggro, and there's guaranteed death. Yeah, I guess he's trying to bet on his luck to be able to avoid the knock-up. But it's just completely... the risk versus reward is pointless.
It's like a straight-up 50-50. It's not even 50-50, you're diving under a tower. Like, it's so stupid.
But now Dig have tempo. Dig have got unnatural tempo that they shouldn't have, based on the mistake that we saw around bot lane, where Lee was overzealous going to bot lane. Then they used TP correct, Someday did, and punished, and they got first blood tower, and now Varus is in top side of the map.
Yeah, they would have even more tempo if Cassiopeia hadn't screwed up. Like, this right here shouldn't be happening.
Yeah,
like, this should not happen. After you take the bot lane tower and rotate, like, your mid lane shouldn't be getting shoved in, and like Pobelter shouldn't be able to move first. This delays the whole process by so long. I'm pretty sure the Nautilus CS advantage is just because Someday has a special relationship with Maokai, though.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Wow, what a cluster.
Yeah, and the whole time...
Cassiopeia roll!
Okay, so we'll go and watch the setup for that, as well as going actually through it.
What setup?
Yeah.
Let's fight. What? Wait,
so they're all rotating top after the tower goes.
Yeah,
so
Varus comes to gain pressure to help Cass push back out, because they can't siege top tier 1 if Taly is pushed in and can move, and Cassiopeia can't, right? So this is the premise behind what they do here. Varus moves alongside Lulu to be able to push Talia back so that Cassio can regain pressure and she can move just as well as Talia can. Whereas if probably going back to a regional game, what would happen here is that Varus and Lulu would go immediately top lane, they'd try and start sieging this, and then Talia would wall in behind, and you actually put yourself in a negative situation. So the thought process behind Dig's play here is intelligent, and they realise they can't execute the top lane siege without mid pressure. So Varus moves down towards mid pressure, but then I think Immortals could try and collapse and kind of fight within the area. But we'll see that now.
I'll just play it out then.
Yeah.
So Ole's just gets... I don't know why he even wants to go the front side of Rift Herald to rotate here.
Yeah, it's a mistake. Because he's on his own too. And Nautilus takes the
blasting plan, yeah.
What should happen here is that they should have actually left Karma to just die. I don't think you ever win this. With the situation you're in, and then they aggro Herald, and you're fighting Herald as well as Dig at this point.
Yeah,
Herald does a lot of damage too. And now you tried to get one extra ward that would give you a bit more information about when Varus and Lulu were going to return to start to siege top, and you ended up losing mid tower, which is even more important. While also your top laner losing CS into top lane too.
So so Dig take bot lane tower, and then their original plan is to rotate their bot lane to top.
Yes.
When do you think it's good for IMT to answer that rotation? When do you think it's better for them to just keep their dual lane bot, and just because they're trying to increase the tempo, right? So if they just do 2v1 and 2v1, is that not a solution to get increased tempo? Both those towers go down.
You could do that effectively if in some situations, but in a situation where you're being outscaled anyway, if you're just taking trade-offs, so Ezreal and Karma could perhaps get bot lane tier 1, right, and Varus and Lulu would in turn get top lane tier 2. They're always going to be one tower behind. Do you know what I mean? Like they'll never catch up that tower.
Yeah.
Whereas if they rotate and meet 2v2 and then are able to execute the play around topside, then they could perhaps equalize the tower score by getting that first tower, right? Whereas if you're constantly matching for the whole game, the team that scales best wins, and that's something that is actually poor for you to do. So they could just go back at bot lane and get that tower, but equally they'd forever be a tower behind. Whereas this way, there is a chance that they're able to execute a good play with Maokai or with Talia roam. And actually turn that play itself and do that. And I think if Varus and Lulu didn't go mid to relieve that pressure, then that would have happened. Talia had pressure mid, so she would have ulted top lane and caught Varus out or caught Lulu out, and then they would have got top tower themselves and actually equalised the tower score as one apiece. But I think some ways in turn, in a very long-winded, roundabout, unorchestrated way, that Cassiopeia dive mid actually led to a very positive play for Dignitas, because it ended up in Immortals getting baited into a fight around like the river topside, because Talia had unnatural pressure because Cassio died, right? And then this kind of worked out in a very weird way, but created a skirmish situation that shouldn't have occurred.
Yeah, I think Immortals just gaffed the setup, trying to make the right play. Like the right response to having the Talia pressure mid is to try and collapse on the top when they siege you, right? So the play that you have to be able to make is you have to be able to set the vision in the river so that Talia can rotate first, so that she can get a good wall positioning. And so Ole needs to walk into that river, but he can't do it on his own. Like he needs to do it with Dardoch, and they had Ezreal slow pushing the wave, so they had like some wave pressure, but not enough to make the rotation. So I think Ole just went super early on that one. If he walks in with Lee Sin and Talia, then there's not really anyone in the Dignitas lineup that can actually check in without dying. Like the Nautilus can, but if Lulu or Varus or Kha'Zix or Cassiopeia walks into that river, they're going to get hurt real bad. So I think that they just like screwed the setup really hard, basically. Oh, speaking of which.
Lee flat kick Cassio, right? I don't even think you see it.
This is something that should have happened so long ago, in my opinion. Like, for the entire game, Lee should have just been camping mid. But Cassio's like such an easy kill for Italia and Elysian, if you ask me.
So is that then what IMT have to do to sort of get back in this game? So they're 3k down and they're going to be definitely at scale.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Dignitas, like,
There's
this
no
game,
reason for
have
Keane to be
shown
there
that...
again.
No, yeah. Like, Keane's been over-positioning super bad this game. Like, he's trying to, like, 1v1 me, bro, for the, like constantly. I think that this game, you've seen that Dignitas haven't actually been forced to be proactive yet. They've just, like, reacted to really stupid stuff that Immortals have been doing, like showing their jungler top. And so you make the super obvious play where you walk in bot side. But they've not actually shown that they can do the setup either. Like, Immortals has at least been proactive and had some of the good kind of setup moves, but I don't think we've seen Dignitas actually do like the proactive, aggressive setup yet. And that's got to be Immortals' win condition, is that when Dignitas like moves in for vision, then you have Talia waiting, basically.
Okay.
I think it should have been used a lot more than it has already. I think they needed to, like you said, put more resources into allowing Talia to be able to move from mid. Because if she doesn't move from mid and nor does Cassio, it always favours Cassio.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, have we seen Italia roll yet?
No, I don't think so.
No.
In 22 minutes, and she's level 14 now. So
even if all they had done with the Talia ult was just like continue playing for time and continue getting the bot lane ahead and making sure their bot lane was pressured and just take the dragons and use the Talia ult to block the dragons, that's fine. You know, you could be sat at 0 towers taken with 3 dragons on the side of Immortals right now and Ezreal on a 50 CS lead. If you just make the slow play, like if that's how you want to play that.
And I don't think you even need to get a huge amount out of it. Even if it just forces Varus back every time and Ezreal just constantly getting an increased lead. He's already got a 50 CS lead in this game anyway, but imagine what that lead could have been if they played this properly, where Lee didn't dive under tower and gave that Varus the kill, and where they would have got that outright freeze, and where Lee puts more emphasis on playing mid, and allowing Talia to be able to move from lane and be able to aid the Ezreal even further. Then there'd be a huge discrepancy between the AD carries right now, and Varus wouldn't be at any kind of situation where he could even fight any skirmish, which means they would give up every single dragon. All vision control around Baron now would be completely controlled by Immortals, but they haven't done it. They've misplayed their kind of points of pressure and not executed well either. And Dignitas haven't done anything special themselves, but they've purely realised that they don't need to. They need to just not make mistakes like Immortals is doing, and punish the ones that they will make, and they gain this lead.
Yeah, I think now is the really telling point in the game for Dignitas, though, because they actually have to be proactive and try and do something, which is not, as far as I've seen this split, been Dignitas' strength. Like my watching of them has been fairly limited, but from what I've seen, they just really struggle at prepping side waves properly and lane assigning properly. Now, that may be something to do with like the communication barrier or something like that, but yeah, I haven't seen them close out a game and like quickly and efficiently ever. All of their games seem to drag on for so long.
Yeah, we'll see how they play around that. But it's a weird one. It's
like this dragon is okay, right? But they don't have any vision in the enemy jungle. You have
They're
3
just
towers
using,
down,
like,
and you have
forcing it,
0 vision, like 0. And you have all of the lane pressure in the world. Like all of the lanes were on the Immortal side of the map for a good long while, and they've not set any vision at all.
Yeah.
The jungler and the support aren't moving together. Xspecial's just constantly off doing his own thing. Chase is farming. It's really disjointed.
I guess they feel in a position where they're not strong enough to match 4v4 at the moment.
Yeah.
With Immortals. With regards to obviously the tank's been in the bot lane now, and probably will be until Baron is a real threat on the map, and the teams actually consider fighting around that. But I feel like they feel they're not strong enough to actually push into the red side jungle of Immortals and gain that vision control, because that's ultimately what they want control of right now. They want control of
like, this is ridiculous. Why do they have no vision? Look at the vision. It's non-existent, and you have a gold lead.
They've got 1 tower and they've just lost a Baron because they didn't see it.
Like, yeah, the vision game is just absolutely appalling from Dignitas.
Okay.
Do we want to go? Let's go and watch that again, because that just
Like, that just happened.
boggles my mind.
We can jump back. Yeah, but this is fine. Okay, so the situation where
Again, side wave
Cassio
control.
did.
Look at that side
I'll
wave.
just
Like,
pause it.
what is happening with that side wave? That Ezreal has literally just pushed from like his inner tower all the way to the Dignitas inner tower,
Go
and there's
back
still
a
no one
little
answering
bit
the
more
wave.
actually, and see when Ezreal starts
Yeah, sure.
pushing. So Ezreal knows he's free to push as soon as it says enemy has slain the Cloud Drake, right? He knows he's perfectly fine at that point, and they've also got Scuttle on bot side, so they see that.
Yeah, he even burns his ult to push
they
it as
see
soon
two
as he
members here.
realizes.
So they get the Cloud Drake, then Cassio is wanting this blue, and they know this. Oh, it's a free blue. Okay.
They even see Karma sweeping out the pink ward that they have in the Baron pit, actually.
Mm.
I don't think they ever thought they would do it at this point, though. But they lose so much control because.
But I mean, right here, why are they not walking in? Like, they have Vision of Talia right now. Like, why is Chaser on Raptors? They had mid-wave pressure there, and Talia's just sat there and farmed the wave and still moved before Cassiopeia, and then Chaser's recalling. The jungle and support just aren't playing together. You can see that X Special really wanted to walk in there and check, but he just couldn't because Lee Sin was in there. But if Kha'Zix is there, then it's fine.
Varus
like
wanted to back too.
Yeah, like by now Kha'Zix is ahead of Lee Sin in the power curve. Like Kha'Zix is totally good right now.
It's very good by Immortals to recognise this and realise this, though, that there is from the map movements Dig have made, they have gained no control over this river, and this is just punishing for that mistake. And this is probably the first time that we've actually seen Immortals punish Dig's mistakes. Most of this game has been Dig punishing Immortals' mistakes. This is the first time where Immortals have punished a big mistake by Dignitas, and that's they didn't move quick enough to topside river to be able to get control at all. They didn't need to contest the river, they just needed a shallow enough vision where they would have a situation where they knew if this was happening or not, and then they can make the play to fight around it. And they want to give it as much time as possible before they do that, because, like we said, they're the scaling comp, and the longer it goes, the more chance realistically they've got of winning. But you can't just give it up because you're not strong, because you're not as strong as they are. You can't just give it up for free and hope that they don't do anything with their Baron, because they should and they will.
Giving a Talia a Baron is so horrible.
They need to be very forceful with this as well. It's very much on Immortals now to use this Baron in the best possible way, because this could be their last point where they're effectively significantly stronger in terms of the power curve than Dig.
So what do they need to do then to use this Baron in the most effective way? Like, is there a specific thing that they should be doing, or do they just look to group up all together?
It's having to take both tier 1s, mid and bot. I think with Baron that should be a minimum requirement. And that you'll probably see the team. You'll probably see Immortals control this bot side jungle vision, so that they can rotate and take the quicker path between those two towers, so that it can't be matched by Dignitas. They can just stretch them between those two towers using the Baron. Maokai's pushing the wave. They can meet the wave after they've pushed out mid, and you should be able to take both. And when you can take both, you can control bot side jungle vision, and then you can control whatever this next Drake is. And as you can see, next Drake Infernal, so that matches the scaling power, or increases their scaling power of what the natural comp Dig is. Double Infernal makes you not get outscaled like you traditionally would with the actual champions, right? Because these champions that shouldn't be doing so much damage at this point are doing 16% more damage, so your scaling's like, the scaling potency is much reduced because of the Infernal kind of unnatural increased damage output of something like a Lee Sin or a Talia that wouldn't.
Hey, there's the Talia ult.
Yeah.
So they're actually looking to get 2 bot lane towers out of this by using that Talia ult, but I don't even think it's.
They just don't time it with the wave correctly.
It's
not set up.
So I think that their achievement with Baron is fine though, and they realise they've got a slow push in top lane, so that's fine. There's no panic.
It's okay to pull people down to the side of the map, but they could have just taken it slow.
That's why they're not actually forcing too hard on this bot tier 2, because they don't need to. If someone loses 3 waves to top lane, it's actually fine to do that. That's like a kill and a half's worth of gold. That top lane wave, and that's why Varus is very keen to get there. Yeah.
Now that Varus shows on the wave, you see all the pings come down. So they'll take that bottom tower for free now. No,
so that slow push gave them this bot tower, right? And that's a higher level of League of Legends than what you'd perhaps see in some traditional
like
regional league.
National League. Yeah. Okay, so Dig again, it goes back to that same win condition of we are still going to outscale them. We just need to make sure we set up for this dragon to contest it, or are they getting worried considering that they've lost so much suddenly off that Baron?
You've got to be pretty worried if you're Dig right now. Like, you really need to stop them getting this next Infernal Drake. Like the scaling isn't at like a horrific point, but the like.
I mean, Ezra with double Infernal is
yeah.
going to do so much anyway.
Yeah. But right now, in terms of the team's power levels, they're not stupidly far apart or anything. Like Dig can absolutely 100% take a fight off of Immortals, no problem at this stage. What you have to worry about is the tempo advantage and the vision advantage that Immortals have, because they're always going to have the ability to like create these slow pushes first, which is what you can see Talia is doing now, and they're going to have the ability to like set up this vision net so that Dignitas can't check into it, and that's where Lee Sin and Talia are really, really strong, because if Dig oversteps one tiny bit in terms of like checking in for vision or trying to clear a ward or trying to take the last hit on that pink ward, then that's when the Talia ward becomes really devastating.
So then what is the correct play from Dig at this point? So 30 seconds left on the dragon, and they haven't managed to get any particular vision in the bot side jungle that I can see at least.
It's really
Do
hard.
they just have to force it as 5, or
they can bring the Nautilus over and force as 5. That's like one option, and you can try and force the Maokai's TP out. But if Immortals is able to disengage properly, then you're going to lose like quite a lot of top pressure from the Maokai.
You've got to try and shove a lane like this, like they're doing.
Yeah.
You got to try and shove mid, and minions give you an underrated level of power in terms of map movements and lane pressure. Because if this wasn't an Infernal, for instance, what Dig could do is they get the inside path towards mid tier 2, and you'd actually just trade off, because they don't particularly want to fight. They feel like they have to at this point because it's a second Infernal. But say this was anything else, an ocean, cloud, probably even a mountain, you could well see them just take the path up towards where Cassiopeia and Varus are now, meet the wave and push it into the tier 2 and just trade a tier 2 for this other Drake. But because they know that they will scale, they outscale Immortals quite heavily with regards to if there are no Infernal Drakes present. But equally, double Infernal gives you that 16% edge in terms of damage and kind of accentuates the strength of champions that shouldn't be strong in terms of the damage output. So Lee shouldn't have any kind of real damage output right now in comparison to Kha'Zix, and he won't necessarily, but you get much nearer to that with double Infernal than you ever did naturally. So and there's a big swing when it's a second Infernal too, because what the difference is 0% difference, obviously, because they'd both be at 8% bonus AD and AP, or so, which is obviously a 0% difference between the teams, or there's a 16% difference. So it's not like the difference between a team getting one Infernal over you. There's either no difference between you and them, or a massive difference, and that's where it's very like kind of pivotal on the game. This Infernal.
So in terms of how the teams want to play the fights at this point, is there any specific like formation that either team is going to be looking to go for?
Both teams have got very, very standard battle lines with single front lines, but then kind of bruisers behind that. So Kha'Zix with Lulu buffs is the secondary bruiser, and Lee's exactly the same. Obviously, Lee's itemized very much tank heavy after Warrior. Deadman's play into Spirit Visage, Spectre's Cow, and Kha'Zix has got a bruisery build too, Black Cleaver into Hex Drinker. So both can take some form of damage with Gunu when they get onto their key targets. Ideally, in a dream world, it would be nice for Varus to get some poke down, but that's going to be quite difficult because Immortals will force this Drake and force Dig to come fight them, because that's what they want, because they feel right now that they're stronger than Immortals in the outright 5v5. If you look where Pabelta's kind of positioning, he's probably trying to use his ult as some kind of zoning tool and separate the front line from the back line, which gives you much more time to punish and kill this front line. And the more time that you get to this Ezreal gets to hit the Nautilus over the damage that Cassio and Varus can put out onto the Maokai, you will win that fight. Realistically, in standard 5-0 comps, it's normally which backline kills the opposing team's frontline first, often wins fights. And that's what we'll see here.
If you both had to guess who's going to win the fight, who do you guess?
for me, it's going to be Immortals.
Yeah, I would say
based
so
on the
as well.
situation they're currently in and the position advantage, the vision advantage that they've got.
Okay,
That's why
and
it's
that's
kind of
just-
hard for Dig.
Yeah, partly because they've just forced them to check it, basically. Right?
That Baron,
Yeah.
basically, because that Baron gave them bot side vision control, and that
Mm.
bot side vision control gets you positional advantage, gets you to move there first. It got them an increased gold lead that they didn't have. They were like 3k down before that Baron, and there's now like, what was it, one and a half up for Immortals, who have also already got an Infernal, so their power's are stronger. Flame or Maokai's also got a GA, so
That's a really big factor.
that's a big factor in terms of how long this front line's going to live. And like I said, if the front line lives longer than the opposing team's front line, if your backline don't make mistakes in terms of positional errors, you normally win the fights in standard 5-0 compositions.
Yeah, the Talia's also got the void staff, and Cassiopeia doesn't have one yet, which is like a huge spike for her. And Ezreal has QSS. Like the Ezreal, I think that Ezreal being this far ahead of the Varus is like a huge decider. Like he's had enough gold to get a QSS extra and still be like ahead of the Varus in terms of damage curve right now, I think. So it's going to be a really good fight for Ezreal, and there's not really much that Dignitas can do to lock the Ezreal down. And like both of these comps are comps that are going to naturally tend towards having really, really long sustained fights, like I said earlier. And I think in a situation where Ezreal's ahead of Varus, then you're going to win out, especially when Varus has this build. Like if it's a lethality build Varus, then like if we're on a previous patch and that's still viable, then I think Dignitas has a much better chance in this. But the Ezreal's going to outpoke the Varus really hard in terms of sustained DPS.
Just see how it goes, see how it plays out then.
Here we go. Hey, you're not even going to get a fight.
After all that, they disengage with the wall. But the principle is the same, right? Immortals are in a bad situation, and Pabelta positioned very, very well. And he positioned so that either Nautilus is separated from his team and the whole team can focus Nautilus, or Nautilus steps back and they just give up the Infernal for free, which is the very pinnacle of high-level decision-making, right? It's low risk, high reward. There is no risk for Talia doing that. They either get a positive fight where Nautilus is being focused, or they get the free Infernal. So there's no risk for Immortals there, and as a result, they have to give up the Infernal. You see a lot of times when perhaps regional players are watching LCS or something, and they're like, "Wow, I can't believe you just gave up that Infernal. You have to fight over it." But realistically, what chance did they have when Talia was able to position like that with the vision control they had? And the answer is very little. And they realise that they don't opt into fights where there's a 90% chance that they're going to lose.
Okay, so if you're on Dig at this point, they know they've got to win both these games, otherwise they're not in playoffs, and they've now down a second Infernal. What is it that they're going to be looking to do? Because they still obviously have when it gets to late game, Cassiopeia is going to be putting out much more sustained damage, but
Baron throw. So like what you're hoping for is that you can like control enough vision in your blue side jungle and get enough pink wards in there, and that someone screws up when it comes to checking in for vision.
Okay.
Like, Immortals should be in this process of like push waves, move in for vision, push waves, go to Baron and bait out the blue trinkets, and then either take the dragon or force an engage. That's like the ideal playbook play from them at this point, right? If you're a Dignitas, you have to hope that at some point in those stages, ideally in stage 2, when Immortals have pushed the waves and then they're coming into check vision, that they're doing it wrong, and that Lee Sin is separated from Karma, or Ole decides to walk in a stupid way like he did earlier down the river, and that you can just wreck him with like Cassiopeia W and Kha'Zix jumps him and he dies. That's like your hope
what's the practical thing that they actually do then in that situation? Just make sure they're always around and ready to collapse on any mistakes?
Ideally like fight mid-wave push as early as you possibly can without overextending, and keep pink wards in your blue side jungle. That's their best hope right now. Which is why it tilts me that Lord has a Doran's Blade. But Immortals is doing the right thing right here, right? Because Dig's like trying to challenge for the mid push, but you can't challenge for mid push when you have 2 side waves pushing against you. So that means that Immortals are going to get the wave pressure in terms of mid push, and then they're going to be able to walk in for Baron vision and blue side jungle control because they see the Kha'Zix right now. So you can see Ole and Dardoch moving in right now. This is the right move from them. And yeah, this is what I said earlier about Dig not controlling sideways properly. Although, why has that ward not been swept?
That's going to cost them so much, isn't it?
Sweeps on cooldown, right?
Yeah, sweeps cooldown.
Okay, so
Oh,
Pabelta
Pabelta.
mispositioned. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
There's
so
the throw.
they read that Pabelta would misposition with regards to he likes to get these flank walls down, and he did exactly the same there.
Yeah.
But it was on a ward that we said just before the fight. It was on a ward that they didn't sweep because their sweeps are on cooldown, and as a result, there you go, they lost the fight.
And they just mistimed it a tiny bit as well. Like the bot wave has only just got onto the tower.
It's just impatience, is it?
If they'd waited a tiny bit longer, they could have had the bot wave onto the tower there, which would have been great. So, they could have just walked in for river control, and then they'd have had the ability to push out top wave again and push out bot wave, and then you'd have like slow pushes in 3 lanes basically. Top wave and mid wave if they'd like maintain control over that.
If Immortals got that Baron there, that was literally game over.
Yeah.
The flash by Lod to signify them going on Talia, and then obviously Kha'Zix's ability to isolate people. And if he does isolate people, it does crazy amounts. Right now, with how far ahead he is in terms of individually.
So they
the wall positioning from Pabelta was actually pretty bad. Like he was super shallow.
But it could have been. It could have been really if they'd had no idea. It could have been quite good. It's just like impatience, not setting it up properly. Like if
you needed to wait for that sweeper before you did it, and I assume that Pabelta didn't know that was warded, right? And as a result, he believed that it would have been swept, just as like we did, just like Max said. Why isn't that ward been swept? That's probably exactly the same thing as what he's thinking right now. Like, how did they know I was there? Why was that ward not swept? And they didn't communicate that the sweepers are on cooldown, and as a result, you get caught, you get punished for things like that in pro play.
Yeah, but they could have waited for that bot wave, and someone would have to show on that wave.
Yeah.
Happy with that result, but because they just like tried to get a bit too clever, right? They're trying to make 2 plays at once. Like, do we wait for someone to show on the bot wave, or do we try and make picks around Baron? And you can just wait for the bot wave to shove there. That's absolutely fine. You can just maintain control of mid wave and be absolutely happy with that. You don't have to make picks in this scenario.
So I mean, that's almost the same mistake that we saw them cost them so much in the early game when they go for invade.
Yeah, I mean, they're looking for kills.
And dive as well. Like they go for 2 things.
Yeah, like they're looking for kills for the sake of kills rather than actually wave management. Like Furn said earlier, kills should be like a byproduct of your good macro play. And if they had played the macro situation properly there, they could have got kills in a 4v5, no problem. Dardoch has GA though.
Do we want to go back and look at that, like with the TP and stuff?
Yeah, we can do.
Yeah, for sure. I was nattering, my bad.
No, it's fine. We'll work out some sort of synergy at some point.
Maybe we should have like a stop talking when there's about to be a team fight where you can see we're not.
No, I just mean like pause it. I like the amount of talking, but I'll just start pausing it when stuff happens. But it's always judging like if too much. So here they're just pressuring that because they lose so little. Like Sunday so tank.
Yeah, they've got the Baron. They're just knowing that they can force.
They've used a lot of ultis for that though.
Yeah.
They've used really, really important ultis, like the Varus ulti and the Nautilus ulti, are like their only ways of engaging, and they use Kha'Zix ult as well actually. So it's pretty rough in terms of sieging from here.
So now the TP comes in here at this point.
Yeah, he's just back. He's trying to get a flank position because he doesn't have flash.
Oh, Dardoch screwed up that kick.
Because Malco didn't have flash, his ability to engage in a linear fashion is next to none, so he has to flank. And that's what he does here, but it's the rest of the team couldn't follow up, so he actually didn't commit to that.
So Dardoch.
But they broke the siege, which is the important part.
But yeah, they did defend that tower as a result. So.
But yeah, I think Tessa are in a pretty awkward position right now because they want to recall. Like they really want to recall. And Immortals has literally just come from base, although Dardoch's low.
Yeah.
He should be okay.
Oh, they're going to give up on this, yeah.
They're too low from the fight there.
Yeah, Pabelta doesn't have enough mana to make this happen. Oh, I think Immortals just threw massively, like hugely. Dignitas should be able to get in really good positioning onto the Elder Drake at least here, if not just take the Elder Drake. Like if they've seen Pabelta's mana, then they should be able to just like burn this right now.
And like we were speaking about earlier, it would have benefited the Varus being the older patch lethality Varus, where he spikes very hard and uses a lot of his Qs to do a lot of his damage. But in teamfights now, his prowess is much more than that. It's very AoE crits and blight stacks on multiple people. He cuts through the armor of the Maokai very well, and
he deals mixed damage as well.
Exactly. So he's in a very good team fight position.
I'm really surprised he hasn't built Bork though.
Yeah, me too.
But has he got Warlords? Because if he's got further, then I mean,
got
he's
further.
yeah, okay. So he's getting lifesteal next, so he's going to have like a stupid amount of attack speed.
Yeah.
And he's going to have 6 offensive items. He's not going to have any defensive items at all. Which, I mean, you have a Lulu, so it's not awful, and they don't have like an insane amount of burst. So I guess they only have Lee Sin kick and Talia basically to kill him.
And Lee's
Like,
probably not ever going to kick. Well, unlikely to kick Varus now. It's much more going to be peeling the Kazakhs off his own carries, I think.
Yeah. So I can see the reasoning.
So from this point, then, what have IMT got to do to get back in this game? Is it just wait for a mistake again, or is there anything proactive that they can actually do other than just?
They still have a really good edge in terms of side wave control, because Cassiopeia, like, if she lane assigns to a side wave and Lee Sin turns up with Italia, she's still going to die. Like, it's the same story as it has been for the entire game, right? If Immortals play that 2v2 correctly, then the Cassiopeia is not in a great position in terms of like mobility in a long lane, right? So I think that they still have the ability to create pressure in the side waves more so than Dignitas do. So Dignitas actually with this comp has to play the wave control situation better because they don't have the ability to 1-3-1 so well. If it were Cassiopeia into most other champions, it'd be okay. But Talia's just so good at killing Cassiopeia, honestly.
So then Dignitas just make sure they don't. So they're already in this situation where they're just going to get 2 slow pushes on both sides.
Wow, the Varus has actually gone BT.
Yeah.
That's really odd. Interesting. Sorry.
I think. Well, when was this game? 2
days ago or yesterday?
Oh, was that it? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure then.
It's really weird that he decided to go BT.
From what I've seen, a lot of Varus go Blade of the Ring King first now, as opposed to he went like a standardized crit auto attack reliant chat, like a Caitlyn build, as opposed to percentage health build. But I guess late game damage
is so far behind.
Yeah, possibly.
I mean, I would prefer the Bork just because, like, how does Maokai Lee Sin ever get onto you if you actually have Bork up? Like, how do they even kill you? You're playing against a team with Karma. Like, a big part of how Immortals wants the team fight is just buff the Maokai and have him run at you, right? So the extra move speed from Bork is really nice. The ability to kite the Maokai, to me, is really important for a lot of this game.
So in terms of the setup for Baron, Dig still have the advantage, right? So
Dig are forever going to have an advantage now.
They have an incredibly strong Baron as well. Kazakh's Cassiopeia, like, they can take the Baron in like 8 seconds, maybe.
Varus too, he does percentage health.
Oh god, yeah, the Varus as well. Yeah, this is like the ultimate Baron killing comp. So both teams have a slow push on either side of the map right now. But Dig's challenging the wave really, really far up and then moving in for vision, but they've not swept properly. Like, there's still so much Immortals vision. Like, the sweepers are on CD right now, but yeah, they only have 1 control ward down because they don't have that much inventory space right now. So the use of sweepers has to be like very, very well coordinated and communicated and very calculated at this stage of the game. But it looks like Immortals is getting the better of Dignitas, like, really hardcore. Like, look how much vision they have on the map. They have like, what, 10, 12 wards down plus pink ward there.
And they have all the way to the Baron is safe for them.
Yeah. But eventually this... Yeah, okay. So Immortals is going to have to force something because they don't want to answer to that side wave, basically. They've got 5 people here right now, so... Yeah, this side wave is...
Dig don't actually need to force anything, right?
This is really good from them.
And let that wave push in while gaining mid pressure. And
this is
gaining mid
great.
pressure will just allow them Baron pressure for free. So they use their wave management very well there to not have to push Immortals out of the Baron area to gain vision, but they use the side waves to do it for them, which again is what happens in pro play. You take minimal risks to get maximum reward, right? And so they didn't need to take a random fight where they might not win, they might win, they might not.
Oh, I don't like this though. I really don't like this. Just burn the Baron. Like, the Maokai's been able to like get over to bot side and then walk back, and they've still not done anything with it. The slow push is still there, but he's going to be able to clear out this wave now. If they'd at least started burning the Baron, they could have got TP. Like honestly, I think they could have killed it.
They just don't have enough.
Really think they could have killed it.
All, do they?
I mean, they only
I
have
think
space
they
for
should
one
have
in
forced
inventories
the
right
Baron
now.
with the objective of not getting the Baron, but of forcing Maokai to TP away from that wave.
Yeah. They can get the
then you
TP
can
there.
peel off, and then you can just reset up exactly the same thing.
This comes down to something that I talked to you guys about before, but at what point, surely at this point in the game, if you think about that Negatron cloak for Sunday, isn't it more useful to have 2 control wards there? Because they don't have any. So Lulu has base one but doesn't have one. Keen's got a Doran's ring, which is there's no argument for that. Yeah. But I mean, even if you have that, surely 3 control wards, then you can just force this Baron so much easier.
Yeah, you definitely can. But I think that wasn't even a case of them not having the vision, because they had the vision. Like, they just didn't pull the trigger. I don't know why.
Yeah,
when
I mean, there still was just the IMT wards on it. That's all I was thinking.
Yeah. The vision denial in the pit is relatively important. But I think there was moments there where Dig could pull the trigger, whether Immortals can see it or not.
Yeah.
Keen still didn't sell the Doran's ring.
Oh my god. But it honestly looks like Dignitas is just spamming their sweepers literally every time they're off cooldown instead of coordinating them properly.
So by coordinating them properly, do you want to just talk a bit more about like what you actually do in practice?
Like literally right before you're going to make the play, you do it. Like it's really simple. There's honestly not that much to say on it.
And just there, they both just popped them and wasted half the timing on it.
Yeah, like you don't really care about the mid lane wards there. Like Chaser, what he did was he popped the sweeper and then ran straight up the mid lane. You really don't care if they have wards there, because everything inside the river should be swept. You shouldn't and you should have mid-wave pressure in this scenario, right? So you should have vision on them anyway, and it doesn't matter if they have vision on you there, because you don't have to be there because you have a mid-wave there. Admittedly, the sweepers have like a really short cooldown at this point, so it's fine. But yeah, if they had that extra pink ward, it would be great. But it actually doesn't look like they're bottom wave slow pushing here.
So away from them now, right? It's pushing for Immortals.
So this is actually a pretty awkward situation for them. And then as soon as Lodge on the wave top, and Immortals are going to get the shove here.
As we're just sort of talking roughly over the same things again, I'd rather just like get it out and like clear. So what exactly do Dig have to do at this point? Because they've been just sort of walking around the Baron for ages, not really doing anything. Obviously, even though they scale up better, when you get to the super late game, the longer the death timers go, the more like one mistake can just cost you the game. So what is it that they need to be doing that they're not doing? Is it literally just coordinating the sweepers?
I think they're trying to find a positional advantage which is going to prevent them just having a chance where Lee Sin can steal Baron. And they're trying to remove that while getting maximum out of the play as possible. So ideally they want an open fight where they don't have to necessarily tank the Baron, or they want to force an outnumbered advantage where Maokai has to meet a slow push and TP into the fight and perhaps be there late. And then get the Baron as a byproduct of the fight, or even probably end the game at this point. So that's why you see it as a bit kind of tentative. Equally, any freestanding gold, so perhaps tier 2 top lane, is something that's achievable with minimal risk and accentuates your scaling advantage further, because effectively Lee Sin's only 3.5 items. Cassio's got still another full item she can get. Varus is full build, Ezreal's full build, so that doesn't really make much difference. But any kind of little advantage you can get at this point, like you said, leads to the less chance of one mistake that's going to cost you a huge amount at this point in the game, with death time has been so long. So slow pushes in the wave that's furthest away from Baron are very, very important, and at the moment Immortals have got that advantage, and Dignitas, like we said, didn't use theirs as effectively as they could have, and they didn't get enough out of it.
So basically they're looking for the positioning, and the reason they haven't been able to find it is partly IMT playing well and partly vision.
No, especially Dignitas aren't happy with a play that's 50-50 right now. They don't want to take it down to a coin flip to who is at best able to execute this next play, because Immortals are in a situation that effectively are happy with 50-50 situations, because they're the ones that get outscaled and effectively should be at a disadvantage. So 50-50 is fine for them, but 50-50 for Dig isn't something they're willing to take right now. It's a kind of like a negotiation between trying to find the play that's 60-40 or 70-30 that's much less risk for them, and open fights like this like I said, much less risk than if they're tanking the Baron, right, and Lee can steal, or you can have a fight when you're tanking the Baron. So fights like this are much better for Dig than ones within the Baron pit. That's why they don't just openly start it and pay kind of respect to Immortals at this point.
So that's actually already a much better use of the sweepers than the last time we saw as well, right?
Yeah. Like with one sweeper, you can get the entire river.
Yeah.
Which is what they do, and then Chaser just randomly uses his and doesn't do anything with it, like just stand still.
Someday.
Ooh.
So now someone's going to have to answer the slow push bot lane, which will be someday. Yeah, there you go. You see him recall, which is when he shows bot lane. Possibly a chance for Immortals to gain vision control, like you see here. They immediately step in. But equally, there is some risk, because when this wave is set slow pushing the other way, Nautilus has TP. And I think Dig would be happy to have a TP fight here, as long as Nautilus can actually get into the fight in time. But Immortals are just trying to establish as much as they can while they know Nautilus can't TP out. And to an extent where they're even rushing it. So they know they've got a period of time where Nautilus had to finish pushing that wave. And now Nautilus is TPing in. There's a wall in behind which separates the team from it. And they're going to try and rush this Baron.
Okay. The Ezreal finished it. Nice. You can see how much stronger Dig are in team fights, but pretty nice wall from Povell to there to stop that from happening.
So that's just and that's, although it makes obviously IMT look much better than Dig, a lot of that is to do with the fact that Dig should be stronger, so that IMT are happy taking the like 60-40 play.
If you watch how quickly Immortals moved in to make that play, as soon as Nautilus ever was going to show at that bot wave, and they realised this was going to happen prior to it happening, right? Whereas when Dig had exactly the same situation on their other hand, where they were pushing into that, there was a slow push pushing into them. They let Maokai show on it, they let him clear it, they let him walk back mid, and then they let him go and clear it again before they actually did anything. So their efficiency of using the wave was much worse than Immortals.
And is that just Dig playing it worse, or does it come back to the fact that
it's them being less proactive with their windows than Immortal were?
Because obviously IMT are more happy with the slightly risky play as well, right? Like if that situation was reversed,
they're the team that should be weaker in the 5v5 right now.
And you saw that Immortals had to like burn that Baron at the end, right? And that's because they're weaker in the 5v5. Like they can't afford to take a fight where Someday teleports in and actually gets an engage, right? But when the shoe was on the other foot, when Dignitas had that slow push pushing into the bot tower, if you're Dignitas and you pull the trigger and Maokai TPs, you're really happy with that because you get a full 5v5 fight. You can just peel straight off the Baron. Someday's not going to have taken any damage from the Baron because you've got Lulu Nautilus, and then you just kill Immortals and you have TP advantage and you do the same play, like the exact same play again in 1 minute, but there's no answer this time.
Okay. And then so setting up for this, so they have Someday zones off considering that Flame's dead, and then they just get free elbow, don't they?
Yeah, this is just free.
Oof.
Dardock living on the edge.
Just no flash, but I think you'll still be fine.
Did he just do the wall?
That's two. That's two in the last minute.
Someday. Better on Maokai, eh?
What a mechanical player Someday is.
His Maokai mechanics are god tier. Yeah. Straight up. Like, I didn't think it was a thing, but it is.
So, basically, at this point, it's still like Dignitas is still in the advantage, right? They're just being so very like overly passive with it.
Yeah, they're not using the windows they have as well as Immortals have, and effectively Immortals have played this game significantly better than Dignitas in terms of a proactive kind of viewpoint. But with regards to using their proactive moves in the early game, they didn't use them well enough, or they overused them.
They've like done way more, but they've also made way more mistakes.
Yeah.
Whereas Dignitas just haven't done anything.
Which is often the way, right? The team that does more opens themselves up to options to make more mistakes. But I think if you're reviewing this game as a Dignitas or Immortals coach at the end of the game, you'd probably be quite happy with how you've played with regards to the macro and the movements from Immortals, but you would just have to tone down on some of the execution with regards to the early plays. But,
yeah, Immortals have just been trying to make too many plays.
Yeah, and kind of overzealous plays, so like the dive on bot lane, right, when they could have just denied so much. That's a very like good example. But I think they've used their windows that they've had very, very well with regards to snowballing or using when Dignitas have been forced to be somewhere, even when they know that Dignitas are in the position where any 5v5 really goes their way at this point.
Yeah, I mean, every time Immortals has had even the slightest advantage, they've done something with it, right? Every time they've had a point of pressure, they've used it. You can't really say that for Dignitas at all. Like, literally everything Dignitas has done has just been off
really nice wall.
mistakes. Yeah, that's nice.
Oh, can you get through that? Oh.
It's still
they're only really playing with one lane of push.
Yeah.
I mean, top way is going to push for them.
I mean, that wall almost gets them that whole tower, though.
Yeah.
And
I feel like Immortals haven't really used like a 1 very much this game, where I think they could have. I think it would have been pretty easy for them to 1-3-1 with the Baron buff, because I don't think anyone can really answer the Talia that well. I could be mistaken, but like, maybe the Kha'Zix is too big of a threat for the Talia to actually push up against, but I feel like Talia can show up in a lane super easily to push against this comp without really being afraid.
Immortals be passive here, and this play is to get your tier 2 top lane. They will get the tier 2 top lane without doing anything, as long as they just don't push in and lose a fight here, because they know they still lose 5v5, so there's no point in taking a 5v5. Okay, you may be able to win it if you mechanically outplay, but they don't need to do that. Whereas they get tier 2 top lane just for doing this, just for being passive, just for standing back far enough that they can't get engaged on by Nautilus and letting the wave kill tier 2 top lane. And
then as soon as it does, they go and clear mid wave.
Yeah,
good.
Of course, and that's very, very understanding of the map. And where you're playing as a 5-man isn't always where you have to create the pressure. And this was a clear point there that you saw.
Man, this is going to be a long game by the look of it.
Yeah. So it's just simply due to the fact that Dignitas aren't making proactive plays and IMT are weaker in 5v5.
Even though
just keeps doing the same thing again.
Weaker, they're the ones that when they have a window to do something, they're using it, whereas Dignitas aren't. And realistically, because they're stronger right now, Dignitas should have more windows to do things in. But equally, the poor kind of understanding of how to use them to the best of their ability is really putting them behind.
Is this a point in the game where you'd consider switching to a green from a green jungle item from Kha'Zix to help the division?
100%.
Just because those 2 extra wards are going to matter so much.
That's so helpful.
And so we see as well, IMT have gone back to 3 yellows.
Yeah, I really like that.
The same sort of idea. They just need to get.
Well, it's quite interesting actually, like specifically against Dignitas. I'm not sure.
I think he's
I don't know. Still, at this point, they've got.
Yeah, I think it's funny. Like it's better than it should be, because Dignitas is so bad at pulling the trigger that you never actually have to be worried about using your blue trinket to scout them starting the Baron. So the extra yellow trinket's really nice, and they don't have enough wards for you to bother having 2 sweepers, right? So it's actually fine, and they have like such a huge advantage just from like the trinkets.
So that's not a strat that you can take away from what she's doing.
No.
Specifically versus Dig.
Specifically versus Dignitas.
Okay, nice play.
Well, I guess against people that always build red smite in competitive, it's pretty good.
In terms of lethality item efficiency in the late game, that's where Dustblade comes in very handy now. because it acts as a secondary sweeper for Kha'Zix, right? And one that guarantees ward kills because it only shows up when the ward is there. It's not like sometimes you use your sweeper and you don't get any wards out of it, right? Whereas that's a guaranteed removal of wards. Yeah, okay. So let's skip
So
back
do you
and
think?
go.
Sorry, just quickly finish on that point. Do you think that means that he should go yellow, or is that just like?
No, I think what he's done is fine. But just with regards to having an offensive item that also provides utility for the team, and that's much more potent for him right now than a U moves, for instance. Okay, you
Jump back a little
bit
bit
more damage, but yeah.
I would prefer green smite almost always, but I understand why Kha'Zix players take red. Like Kha'Zix is one of the few where
I just mean
okay.
and at this point, is it worth swapping because he's been sat on max
100% he should be on green smite right now. The red isn't going to do too much for him now.
Nope, not really.
So it's actually this lane ward that gives Dig the positioning on this fight. So they see them all coming on that lane ward.
Yeah.
And in choke points, if you're able to land Varasalt and Nautilus Assault, that's where a lot of your engage comes from. And like I said, whoever kills the tanks first normally wins, and that's what you see here.
Nice hook prediction on the flash.
Okay.
I think that play also started as a result of Pope to clear the wave, though, because it meant that Immortals lost positioning on the mid lane.
Oh, Dardo.
Dardo? Great escape.
But they just have to. You can see how quickly, when they don't have vision, IMT really need to check Baron. Like the second they went into the fog of war there, because of how quickly they do it, Dardo has to run. Feels he has to run up.
Yeah. Dignitas should get top tower here, no problem, or like a Baron fight, one of the two.
I think they should probably.
And again, they just don't want the 50-50.
Yeah, they can burn this here. I mean, they could have if Someday hadn't been in base.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, they're going to have the bot wave pushing now. So, like, this is in the next 2 minutes. We need to see Dignitas make a play. Basically, like this is the situation they've been waiting to have for ages.
Yeah, this slow push that's going to meet the Immortals inhib tower is going to have to be answered, and Flame's going to have to go meet it and then teleport. And that's what they're waiting for right now.
And that should give Dignitas either a free Baron or the ability to take a 5v5, which is what they want.
And either one will win them the game effectively.
Yeah. So we have to keep an eye on how Chaser uses this. They should be in a position, right, where they can literally all just stand here, and there should be no chance for Immortals to actually sneak wards in. So he should just be able to sit on his sweeper, no problem now. Oh, wait, he used it. Yeah. I would have waited for the Dusk Blade and just saved the sweeper. Because you don't care about these. You don't care about these shallow wards. You really don't. You just care about the wards that give them vision of Baron right now. Yeah, there goes another sweeper.
And all this does is it makes it much more difficult for Immortals. Immortals are going to have to walk in blind, right? They're going to have to walk in blind.
Oh, this is so quickly.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
Really so they really could have just done that play, the same play.
So long ago, yeah. Because they've been on full items for 15 minutes
and
now.
It's just you can't get through Sunday. You can't jump on.
And they didn't even need the bot pressure. Well. No one went. No one showed on the bot wave. They didn't need it. They just burned it. They didn't even make the good macro.
This is why when I was talking about the extra control wards earlier, this is why I think I would be tempted to take them extra over even 800 gold items at that point.
Yeah.
Because if they just have an extra couple of control wards in that earlier 10 minutes where they were just sitting around Baron, that same play becomes so much easier.
Yeah.
And what was it, a chain vest or something on the Kha'Zix? It's you're going to live for an extra second or something, or you're going to get a Baron and win the game.
Yeah.
Okay, Immortals just showed 3 people bot? I mean 2, I don't think Karma got seen, so this should be a really easy mid tower. Hello? He's just getting the sick flank position, dude. Look, sick flank incoming.
That's why he did Gromp. So he queued in and flashed away. Never mind.
Okay. Right.
Daldok's been really questionable this game actually in terms of
he's been horrible.
His micro decision making.
And macro. His macro's been bad as well.
Yeah, maybe.
Do we want to watch that again? I mean, it just comes down to that one misplay from Lee Sin. I guess in terms
They
of
showed 3
his
people on the
point of
wave.
view-
I just don't get
Yeah.
the thought process behind that.
does he maybe go in as they're saying we back out, or I don't know. But you surely got to go when you've got at least in behind them. That's like
It could be a case of that Dignitas realised he's going to go for a flank because that's kind of the only chance of them holding off the siege. So as soon as they realise he's going to do that, they just hard engage on the Immortals front line.
Yeah, I mean, he gets a Q onto Log before anyone dies, right? Watch it again here.
So they're already basically engaging at this point.
He lands a Q on the
Q's
cannon,
onto the
and
cannon.
he goes in and flashes away.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
think
I mean,
he
all of
tries
the
to
dig
kick
flashes are up. Literally all of the dig flashes are up. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe he tries to kick and
He tries to
maybe he
kick
tries
and
to
then
kick
flash
Lulu
away.
into everyone. Like he
Yeah.
was at a decent angle to kick Lulu into literally 4 people there, which would have been like a game-winning play. So that could be it. But this is the right call from Dignitas for sure. Like they just patiently wait out. They have bot pressure. They have mid pressure. They take the Infernal Drake, not Infernal Drake, the other Drake, and they move up.
It's actually impossible for Immortals to actually win a fight at this point as well. With Infernal, with Baron, Elder, Baron, and just the comp scaling itself.
Yeah.
So now they just do the same thing top, and
Yeah, easy.
IMT just wait for some.
They wait for the bot wave to push, and they have
Horrendous
one
mistake.
person like rotate from mid to top to make sure the wave goes into the base. When the wave goes into the base, they move.
And obviously,
They're waiting in the brush, but the Baron buffing the minions.
obviously it's
Immortals making the Hail Mary
2
here,
lanes
like
to
I said
6
earlier,
lanes now, so.
where they push waves, then they come into this top side for vision, and Immortals just going to sit in this top side. This is like literally the only play that's available to them right now. Like they could try and clear out as many super waves as possible, but it's not really going to happen at this point.
Yeah. It's just one of those things where if we bring back to risk reward again, isn't it? So
Wait, how's Dig used both their sweepers already? What? Interesting.
And that's
that's a good
the end
Varus
of their fight attempt, I think. Okay,
Ooh.
Talia got Varus immediately.
Oh dear.
Oh,
Cody's son just got very zoned though.
Oh, is he going to go down to the dragon? Oh.
how did Immortals win this fight?
We'll go
That
back and
was
we'll
super
go back
early,
and watch it
and
again.
Keen was like randomly off to the side.
How did Lord die with flash and heal up?
I think he got kicked
Unlucky.
into a
Talia.
over to W. Yeah, we'll just quickly go back and see that again. Obviously, this game was.
Yeah.
Oh,
Didn't
God,
realise
this
this game was
such
this
a free
long.
game. This was such a free game if they just waited for those minion waves. Like, if Immortals haven't shown on those minion waves by now, it's really obvious what they're trying to do. Like,
Yeah.
really
They
obvious.
have
And
to be
again,
there somewhere.
It's just the reverse of the risk reward thing that I was just about to talk about before the fight started. Of like, so waiting in a brush is all that IMT can do because
Yeah, it's
even
the
though it's
only
super
play they have
risky,
right
like
now.
there's not. Yeah, they're gonna just lose if they don't.
Oh, they have a blue trinket!
They were spamping and missing in the base too.
Yeah,
So why do they move into this ridiculous choke against Italia?
and they even have wards in the base as well, or a ward in the base.
So how does Varus immediately die? Because Lee gets Varus
He
ulted.
gets quite a
Malkai
good.
flashes onto him.
Malkai flash W's onto Varus.
Pobelter,
Oh,
No, he doesn't.
he gets knocked into the
Pobelter flash W's him.
Yeah.
onto the minefield, and that kills him
So
immediately. at this point.
Lily's got ult up, he's got heal up, and he's got flash up.
Yeah.
So I don't.
And then Keen is going for flank, I guess. We'll try and do the same
Yeah,
thing.
Keen's really zoned out here.
I guess this is
Garlic just trades with him.
King went on to Cody's son, and Cody's son
Yeah.
ended up getting like 0 HP, but still lived.
Yeah.
And what you were talking about before with the 6 offensive items as well, he just dies
Yeah.
instantly.
If he has a GA there, then Dig still wins this fight.
So Dig, considering that they should have been looking for just a more standard 5v5, is the correct play then to them all to like peel back onto the onto Flame as he comes in with the flash W?
Realistically, Dig just had to wait an extra
Yeah.
10 seconds
Yeah.
for a super minion wave to start hitting the Nexus tower. They didn't even need to push up top lane until someone shows in that base. And then even if they're waiting in the bushes 4, like, you're not going to lose the fight even if you're surprised as 4 if you're all together as 5.
And you don't even need that top minion wave at this point. Like, you can walk up to the tower and just attack it and it will die. You don't care if they clear out your top minion wave because you still got those 2 super waves in the bottom and mid. So Yeah, like just funneling into this choke is super bad.
But once the fight starts, though, Keen should just stay back, or because he goes deep onto Cody's son, but
I feel like if Keen's burning down the Immortals front line, then they can maybe even still win this team fight.
yeah.
I think what Keen thinks is probably that the team has enough to prevent. If he keeps Ezreal out of the fight, the only damage is Talia at this point, really.
He actually still has ulti at this
tank.
point, though.
Lee's just full tank, and obviously so is Maokai, and then they've got.
Like if Keen's with the team when the Talia Lee Sin like jump in and he has his ult up, then the Varus doesn't die. I don't think.
I mean, obviously
maybe
the
still
Varus
dies, but
shouldn't
everyone dies for it.
die. Varus shouldn't die anyway. So
And I think that's what Keen sees. He thinks, right, if I keep Ezreal out of this fight, then my team's going to win the 4v4 while I keep their strongest late game member out of the fight. But Varus dies so quickly that that's actually not the case. Whereas Varus shouldn't die because he still has heal, he still has flash, Lulu still has ult, and they're still not able to get anything out of it, which is poorly
Pretty
played by
sad.
Dignitas in terms of a fight kind of standard.
Holy crap! Is Immortals going to win this game?
I really hope not, because that doesn't show us a very good level of macro play for our first LCS game.
yeah. It's already been really messy.
I mean, it is NARCS.
It's quite an interesting game, though, in terms of one to look at. It's a game that has clear points that you can kind of look at from a neutral perspective that you think that can translate into other games. So utilising windows of strength, playing on your power curve. And both teams have actually done this very poorly, right? And what was actually played much better when they've been weaker in terms of composition. Whereas in the early game, when they were stronger, they didn't put any pressure for the Talia. They played the dive poorly around the Ezreal. Dardoch ganked the Nautilus too much, in my opinion, and actually played poorly around their strength, or when they were strong, but have played much better since they've had, like, with these late game decision making. With regards to using waves very well, they picked up a Baron the last Baron ago, and have done that very well. But it's quite interesting from the neutral perspective that both teams haven't played around their strengths of the comp very well. Like, Dig got an early lead with this comp, which shouldn't happen. And played poorly around their late game when they should be strong. So they've played kind of very strange in that sense. Yeah, we can.
So, who does either of you want to talk about? So Chaser lost his GA, so his defensive item now is Zhonya's. Is that
what?
So he gets.
Holy moly!
Just bear in mind, even if they win this series but they lose this game, they fall out of playoffs. So this game is like all or nothing at this point.
Could you not just build like a Randuin's or
or Deadman's or?
I wanted to pause that in case we just suddenly saw it before it happened.
I guess his W heal scales with AP, so.
Yeah, that's always good. Gets more sustain on those jungle camps.
What would you Zhonya's?
Watch him just win the game with it and prove you both wrong.
Yeah, maybe. That's something I've never
Start
seen.
the Baron, please, for the love of God, start the Baron.
Maokai's clearing 15 super minions on his Nexus.
Watch Dardoch steal this.
Oh, please
Yeah,
no. So now they
heal off.
get the
So now they
TP,
just
which
back
is
away
great.
and
That's
they.
great. And now there's still super minions hitting the Nexus.
Oh,
The minions just win, surely.
Dardoch's going to come in and steal this Baron. Call it now.
They've got to kill Dardoch now.
He
And
kicks
that's game
Keen.
over.
Oh,
That's game over at that point, because minions do it even if you don't, I think.
yeah.
Hmm.
Dude, no, the inhibitor respawned.
Oh,
The
no.
inhibitor respawned.
Oh, no. Oh, he's TPing into the inner, but he's had,
He
they've
should
had
TP
enough of
it.
it. They're going to make the proactive move in the end. Oh, no, he's running away from the inner.
Oh my God.
The 6k HP, 500 armor Nautilus running away from the inhib and the support Karma.
Holy moly.
I think they took. I think Dig are a team that let's take minimal risks to the absolute maximum.
Yeah, why take the 95% play when you could take the
when you can get
97.8% play?
Exactly, Mac. You've got it.
Oh my God, Lord nearly just died as well.
So it's actually impossible for them.
Zhonya's comes in. Saves him.
Oh my
I
days,
told
he
you.
used the
I
Zonyas,
told you.
and then he gets the
Saved
redemption.
life
Lulu.
with the Zonyas.
Oh wow, what a finish!
100% win rate with the Zonyas.
100%, easy, mate.
Okay, cool. So if we just talk about a little bit, like one or two things in that game. Obviously, it was very long, so just switch back to the mics. So just briefly, do you want to summarize like what we're like mostly looking at and talking about? So from my point of view, obviously, there's a lot of talking about risk and reward, and not so. IMT's one of their biggest mistakes a few times was going for too many things at the same time.
Yeah. I definitely think neither team understood fully how to use their comp when it was at its peak. And like I said, just kind of briefly earlier, Immortals should have been pressuring for the Cassio for the Talia to be able to move and use her prowess. The way to think of Talia is like a version of Twisted Fate that has more push pressure, right? And that's the way I think of Talia. And if she could push out her mid lane,
Twisted Fate, but good.
yeah, like a better Twisted Fate, one that can impact side lanes very, very heavily because she can push. And if you allow her to do that, and she can, Lee Sin doesn't have to invest in top lane to pressure the Nautilus. Lee doesn't have to make these ridiculous dive plays on bot lane where he actually gives up more than he gains, because you can do it as a 4-man, or Talia can be everywhere that Cassio can't, while Cassio doesn't even have any power anywhere because she's trying to scale. And they didn't use this well at all. But what they did do well is once it came to late game decision making, I'm not sure who shot calls at the moment on Immortals, but they played very, very well around the small minion wave windows that they had, whereas Dignitas just didn't do anything in the early game. And that was fine for them because they were looking to scale, and that's maybe the style that they've adopted, where they don't need to do anything, but they just punished mistakes quite heavily. And then they got a little lead out of this, which they probably should have never got. And like I said, it was because Immortals played poorly around their early game. But then it got to late game, and they still didn't do anything. When they needed to transition from this style, which was, okay, we're looking to scale, to, okay, we've scaled, now we can be forceful. And they didn't quite get that kind of line right, where they realised where they could be forceful and actually use that. And I think that's two kind of very different styles. Immortals are always trying to look to make things happen, whether it's right or whether it's wrong, what they're trying to do. They're very proactive and trying to do things, whereas Dig are happy to just sit back, let other people do things, and then punish mistakes if they make them. But that doesn't work when you are against top teams. You're relying on opposing teams to make mistakes for you to gain advantages, not ever pushing them out because you know you're stronger at that point. And I think even when they get significant leads, because of that, you may see Dignitas in future games throw significant leads because they're not using their leads to the best of their ability.
I think I can keep it pretty short on this one. I think Dardoch had a really, really crappy game, both mechanically and in terms of like decision making. And I think that Dardoch is like a very strong voice when it comes to early game shot calling on Immortals, and I think that showed. Basically, Immortals just needed to be more patient, and Dignitas actually just needed to be less patient. They needed to be more proactive. They needed to start pulling the trigger. That game should have been over 25 minutes before it was.
So, like, obviously, a lot of the time we spent talking about how IMT were making the most of all the opportunities they had, and Dignitas weren't making the most of any opportunities, and Dignitas still won. Is that due to like a better draft, or does that all just come down to the fact that Dignitas were ahead in the early game when they shouldn't be?
Well, it's partly that. Yeah, it's that they didn't use when they had their chance to win. They didn't use it correctly. And that set them to a point where, realistically, when it gets to this late point in the game, they have no right to win. But it shouldn't get to that point in the game. And because it did, it gave Dignitas a huge advantage. But if Immortals played correctly around their early game, Ezreal would have been significantly ahead of Varus, and Varus would have been a lot more behind than we saw. Cassio would have never had that chance to scale because Talia would have been controlling side lane so much that Cassio never got to sit there and just farm against the Talia, because that's a dream scenario. Well, when your Cassio's flashing on the Talia under tower and actually having kill pressure on her in a lane which Talia hasn't used an ult for 20 minutes, of course there's something gone wrong there with Immortals early game. And if I was coach of Immortals at that point, that's really what they'd have to hone in on not letting teams beat them because they made poor kind of selection on where they're going to invest resources. They invested Dardoch way too much top. They didn't invest anything into Talia, and they played poorly around bot lane with Dardoch again when he was there. So I think it wasn't necessarily Dignitas being good in this game. It was Immortals not using their strength they had, and then the comps mismatching where there was a situation where obviously Dignitas outscaled heavily and could win every 5v5, but that was because the 10 champions that were on the Rift, and not necessarily because Immortals were better or worse than Dignitas.
I completely agree.
Okay, so that's the end of game 1.